So I picked up the new, or relatively new 16 stop ND filter from Formatt Hitech filter, and my first thought when purchasing this is, when the hell am I going to get to use this? 16 stops is just a really heavy reduction in light. Even 10 stops is a ton of reduction, and so I'm really checking out to see if I can use it, when I can use it, and what a better place than Brooklyn. So I'm in Brooklyn. I'm going to head to, we're near the Brooklyn Bridge Park, set up the 16 stop filter and test it out with some images of the New York skyline here in late afternoon. It's about 2:30 right now. Let's do this. So I'm down here where I want to be shooting here in Brooklyn, and I've got my camera set up. I've got the Lee filter holder system set up on there as well. And before I can put the big 16 stop filter on, I need to figure out an exposure first. So right now I'm reading f11 1/100. And now there's two ways to figure out your exposure once you put on the big 16 stop filter, because of course you can't see anything through the camera and your camera can't get a proper reading that's like 2, 4, 6, 8 minutes. So you have to do it manually, and you can do it this way by figuring out your reader and then counting your stops out in your head. That can be a bit tedious. I have an app on my phone called Trigger Trap, which is a time-lapse app, and with that app I can actually do a math calculation really quickly and figure out what my shutter speed needs to be at this at 1/100 in proper light. I'm guessing it's going to be about a 10-12 minute exposure. Let's test it out. So as expected, the math is telling me it's going to be a 10-minute exposure, which is a really long time, especially because the sun could go behind a cloud and make this image too dark. So I'm going to test it out at 10 minutes now. The way you shoot 10 minutes, a long exposure shot like that, is you switch your camera over to bulb mode, and then you use a release. I have just a wireless release, and I just fire it, and the shutter opens, and then when I click the button, the shutter closes again. So I'm gonna shoot this off, and then I'm gonna set my alarm on my iPhone. Let's go. So one of the minor grievances I'm having with this ND filter, it's a really minor one, but it can cause issues. When you shoot the Lee filters, the 10 and 6 stop filters, they have like a rubber foam or foam padding here that stops light from leaking in into here. When you're shooting really long exposures, light can bounce around from the back and get in there and cause all sorts of problems with your exposure, causing flaring and weird light to come in and stuff like that. So I would have liked to see this from this filter, considering it's about the same price as those big stoppers and these little stoppers are. So I left the shutter open for over 600 seconds, 640 seconds, I believe, or something like that. And the image looked interesting, but it had exposure problems, as you quite often do with straight grads. It had a really bright sky and a really dark foreground. So I had to add a 3-stop ND grad. So I put a Lee filter, 3-stop ND grad on top of it, and I also added a little bit more light. So I went down to f8, and I'm going to shoot about the same exposure, maybe go up to 700 seconds, and hopefully this will give us a cleaner look. At 16 stops, I'm noticing one big problem. 10 minutes is just too long, I think, with clouds, because when the clouds move like this, you don't really see them. You see like mist. It looks misty, it looks foggy rather than cloudy. So I'm not sure how I feel about the really long exposures in the daytime yet. I guess it's going to come down to if the grad filter helps and if post-processing them into black and white monochrome helps as well. So one of the great things about the new version of the Formatt Hitech filters, which they're calling Firecrest, is that they're really color neutral. With a lot of the really heavy ND filters, you get a lot of blue cast. The images come out very blue or even purple. But you don't see that with the Formatt stuff, the new Firecrest stuff anyway, which is absolutely fantastic. Sure, you can fix that blue stuff in post-processing, but it's really nice not to have to. And if you know me, I like to get things right in the camera, so not getting that heavy color cast has been absolutely fantastic. So I'm fighting a little bit with lens flare, which isn't a filter issue. It's more of an issue of shooting with filters in a sun that's in front of me rather than behind me. When you're shooting super long exposures during the day, you want the sun at your back. And yeah, it's causing some issues. Anyways, I'm gonna shoot a couple more shots here with the 16 ND on from Formatt. And then I'm gonna switch over to the little stopper from Lee once the sun sets here in New York City, and shoot some photos right around sunset and into the blue hour. So yeah, check out these images. So now it's been about a day since I was out there in Brooklyn Bridge Park shooting with that 16 stop ND filter from Formatt Hitech filters, and I've got to be honest with you, when I was shooting, when I was out in the field, I was struggling to find a use for it. I was thinking to myself, you know, if I'm shooting 1/100 naturally, I need a 16-minute exposure. That's just too much. Is there really any use for it? And for me, I was thinking at the time, absolutely not. There's probably nothing that this filter is really going to do for me. Then I got the images onto my computer. Then I had a quick edit at them. And as I edited them, as I added a little bit of contrast, as I messed around with the images only a little bit, they just came to life in a really artistic way. It made the images look more futuristic almost. It made, I don't know if it's the way that the shadow occurs on really long exposures in the middle of the day, but it made everything kind of look metallic and absolutely cool. It's tricky because I really only got 2 photos. I shot 4 or 5 photos with the 16 stop, but I only got 2 that I like because of lens flaring. That's not a filter problem, it's just a problem with where the sun was. But the 2 images that I shot, one which I kept in color and one which I flipped to black and white, I love. I really, really like. I love how the sky looks like. I don't know, it just like you've got these stripes across it, and I love the contrast on the buildings, and I'm really stoked with how they came out. One of the things I learned about the 16 stop filters is that I need to be shooting 2 cameras. I can have the one shooting really long exposures, and then I can be playing around with something else on the other camera. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there for 10-16 minutes just completely bored. So that's my review of this 16 stop filter. I think what I'm going to do is put another video out at some point showing you the different things I've come up with the 16 stop filter, because it's funny, when I was shooting I kept thinking, like, what am I going to use this for? How am I going to make use of this filter I spent $150 on, and was worried I was wasting my money, or I'd wasted my money. And then on the subway home from Brooklyn Park to the High Hostel in New York, I was just like, my mind was just spinning with all these different things I could do with the 16 stop filter. Like maybe throw it on the 50mm f1.4 and do low depth of field and long exposure stuff, which is really rare in the middle of the day in Europe when I'm there in about a month's time. So I'm actually really excited to play with this filter more. And I gotta be honest, when I was shooting out there at Brooklyn Bridge Park, I was regretting everything and regretting spending the money on it. And now I'm so stoked to shoot a little bit more with it. To talk quickly about the image quality, going back through my photos, there was no color cast. There was maybe the most minor blue color cast on the images, but it was basically non-existent. It definitely wasn't obvious. It definitely wasn't really blue like you get with the 10 stop filters from some of the other companies. It's absolutely phenomenal. I got really sharp images, even though there were 16 stop 15-minute exposures. So I'm really happy with the quality of the glass. I don't think you're going to find better glass anywhere in the world, let alone a 16 stop filter. Another quick thought, I guess, The 6-stop filter around sunset was unbelievable. I absolutely loved that 6-stop filter I was playing with, and I am going to have a hard time taking that little stopper off my camera. I do think that I need a big stopper as well. So right now I have 3 stops, 6 stops, and 16 stops. I need to bridge that gap between 6 stops and 16 stops. I need a 10-stop filter. So I'm going to pick one up, and to be honest, I was going to get the Lee big stopper, but after shooting this Formatt Hitech 16-stop filter, I'm going to get their Firecrest 10-stop filter because I know that the quality is there with the glass. Anyways, that's it for the show, guys. And I'm promising you I'm going to have a ton of articles and videos about filter use. I know that's a question I get a lot. People are using filters more and more. I've used filters for ages, and I don't know how I lived without them before. So I'm going to have episodes on how to set up a filter system, what filter system to buy, how to use grad filters, polarizers, all that sort of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of filter usage videos in the months to come. Speaking of the months to come, I'm right now on a Via Rail train. As you can see as I spin the camera around, that's my beautiful room on the Via Rail train here in Canada now. I'm in Toronto. I'm taking the Via Rail from Toronto to Jasper. Then I have a couple days in Jasper National Park where I'm hoping to get northern lights. They've been busting off all over the place right now, the northern lights, and I've been away from places I can shoot them. So I'm hoping I can shoot some northern lights out there in Jasper. Hoping that I can hit the ski slopes once or twice, and then I'm heading to Calgary for a couple weeks. I'll hit Banff National Park, I'm sure, as well, and then I'm off to Europe. So an exciting couple months coming here on the channel and in my life as a travel photographer. So I hope you stay tuned. I hope you stay subscribed. I'll catch you next time. Peace.